Well, hello. It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks I've been using throughout the week. So let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I'd invite you to subscribe. And have you made any cool discoveries while wandering around looking for something else? Like this field here that we're looking at is supposed to be full of flax, which it is. The flax is hiding, so I'll show you some other stuff while I'm out here. Let's take a look at some pens. Alright, so these are the pens that I've been using this week from left to right. I have an Aurora 88, a slightly flipped over Majohn V60. Just moving my microphone a little closer. I have a vintage Aurora 88. We have a Parker. No, I am so sorry. Try that again. The next one's a Parker. We have an Italix Parsons Essential. We have a Parker Sonnet. We have a Loft Winchester. We have a Montblanc Monte Rosa. And we have a Pon Senior. As always, I got an ink problem here. Be doing my writing sample in this Theory Cognitive Surplus notebook. And we're on a different camera than normal this week, so I am very curious to see how this goes. I already saw one problem, which is my preview screen is vertical, not horizontal. Alright, so one thing that's slightly problematic with this camera is it is sideways. But anyway, my first pen, I will give its first test. Alright, so my first pen is this lovely Aurora 88 with the Giove finish. When you look at it closely, not too closely apparently. Alright, so one of the things I'm seeing now is the camera can't do the good close-ups the way I'd like. And the autofocus doesn't really hunt. Alright, so anyway, I had a comment last week that they wanted to see the model number, so I'm not sure what that means. I'm guessing they mean the finish. So if you could clarify, that would be great. Anyway, I'm using Atramentis Red Roses. This has a broad nib in it. You might be able to smell it all the way where you are because it's got a very rosy smell. So I like this pen just for broad writing. It's a fun one. It's pretty. And not a flex pen or anything, but I like the feel of Aurora nibs. And all in all, it's just been a good pen. So, let's draw, if I can, the Jupiter 7 of Lost in Space fame. If anybody remembers that show. I feel like there was a thingy underneath also. So, there's the Jupiter 7, Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robinson, danger! Speaking of danger, let's risk some controversy and let's bring in the Majohn V60. Why are we risking controversy? Because it looks just like the Aurora 360. So I have now turned the camera side, or the cell phone sideways that's previewing all this. So I hope that works. I don't know, we may have to go back to the other camera with the hunt. There's things I'm liking with this and things I'm not. So this has a fine nib. I remembered to do the white balance right away, and at least from the preview, I'm liking the color of the ink, so that's working out well. The ink in it is De Atramentis. Violets, which is Miss Marilyn Darling remarked last week, smells like grandma. True. It's kind of an old lady perfume smell. No offense to any old ladies out there who use violet perfume, or young ladies who use violet perfume, or heck, young or old men who use violet perfume, cologne, whatever. I remember years ago I stopped in Castleton, North Dakota, where there's a winery that makes stuff out of local fruit. And anyway, they had a bottle of lilac wine, which I bought. They also had a bottle of dandelion wine. So I bought a bottle of each and had some of my friends try it. And yeah, they said it was kind of like the lilac wine was like drinking Granny's bathwater. The dandelion wine was just so sweet it was disgusting. Sorry, Castleton, to throw you under the bus. Your school does have my favorite mascot of all the schools in the state. So, it's a squirrels, if you can't tell. Alright, so this is my vintage Aurora 88. I believe it's from the late 1940s, early 1950s. One thing I'm discovering... have to more manually focus, and with this camera I can't get the really good close-ups the way I can with the other. And since that is something that's important to the channel, it may be something for me to think about. So this is the Aurora 88. I don't know what nib model. I don't know. It's an Aurora 88. That's what they looked like originally. The ink in it is almost gone, but it's Rohrer and Klingner. Scabiosa. I've had several people remark that's kind of like a Harry Potter name. But anyway, a nice iron gall ink. It's purplish. I have been told by some people that iron gall inks turn black over time. From my understanding, that's not true, especially of modern ones. They get darker, usually within the first minute or so, and then they stop getting darker. So, in honor of old ones, let's do a capital T. A really fancy capital T. Alright, that's why I don't do calligraphy. If you might have seen, I recently did a live stream with Miss Marilyn Darling, who is way better at calligraphy than I am. Because that was rather sad. Alright, this is my Parsons, my Italix Parsons Essential. I was recently told, well, in the last set of comments on the last video I did, that this company... Ooh, now it's going better. And I think we reached the limit of close-ups. But anyway, I was told in my last set of video, or my last, pens in use, that this company went out of business. They apparently did have quite a nib selection. And they also... I can't find them for sale anywhere. So I'm guessing that's true. Which is a shame. You know, just a very high quality metal pen. My ink in this is Ferris wheel press. Buttered popcorn. I have bought 2 inks from this company as well as a few samples, and most of the ones I've tried I've thought were too pale. Even this one is too pale. It only works because this is a very broad nib. Others like this, I think I really love Private Reserve Buttercup. Very pretty yellow. Almost completely useless. So let's do a Ferris wheel. Let's get some bracing in there. No triangles, even though that's what we should be using. And we need our little baskets, and I didn't think of that till after I drew my wheel, so there's our little baskets. Ferris wheel seems like it'd be the most boring ride imaginable, but I suppose one of the fun things with it is you get to see everything. Maybe? I don't know. Alright, then we get this lovely Parker Sonnet. This has been my daily writer type pen just lately. Okay, so if we don't want to get any closer than this, that's about as good as we can do for a close-up. And then it loses it. So we have our Parker Sonnet. I did open with video from the old writing camera, which may come back to here. I almost feel like that camera is better, not for pens in use, but for videos where I'm discussing, like, here's a new pen I've found, and we want to do lots of close-ups. Maybe not so much for pens in use. Running low on Delta Black. I'm not sad. It's a okay color. Nothing amazing. When it's gone, I won't feel any sadness. Just kind of, oh, we're out of Delta Black. So what are we going to do for Delta Black? Delta Dawn, what's that flower you have on? Could it be a faded rose from days gone by? So that's a sonnet. Well, no, not really. But it's a song. And songs and poetry are related, so there you go. We'll find some logic in there somehow. Oh, I'm a terrible person. All right, here we go with a Winchester Cathedral. Da, 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 da. Speaking of sonnets, that apparently is a pop song. I forget who sang it. Probably a few people. Maybe Ray Conniff. Kind of makes me think of MacArthur Park, which is a more American ballad. All about green frosting melting in the rain and stuff. It's about a little more than that. Anyway, I like the finish on this. You don't get the fancy close-up, I guess, with this camera, but there you go. And it has a broad nib. Broad buck nib. How about that? At least in the preview, this is looking more orange, and that's looking more yellow than it did last week. Loft. Winchester. Dab, burn it. The ink in this is Sailor, Jentle, Apricot. I'm not really running low on this ink at all, but I was digging around for my next black ink, and I found out I've got some very nice oranges. Not very much of them, but I do have some, so we'll spend some time narrowing in on a favorite orange, because it can't be this one. Because, This one's no longer made unless Sailor decides to reissue it as a special edition or something. I did have a very nice idea. I don't remember what it was. So let's just draw a loft apartment. So here is the bed. I'm tall and I like to sit up and read, so we're going to put my pillow here, because I feel like if I lay my head here, first time I sit up tonight, I'm going to go bonk right there. And then let's put a kitchen here. Really tiny upper cabinets. Pan on the stove. And I don't know, ceiling fan. I've actually lived 1 year in an apartment. That's it. Dorms in college, but I lived 1 year in an apartment. I'm a homeowner here where I live now. I actually moved here from that apartment. I just couldn't find housing in that town, and they did have an apartment, and that was good enough. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. It was bigger than this whole house, so I came down in lifestyle moving into this house. So this is forgot to show you, Montblanc, Monte Rosa. This is actually almost out of ink. I've worked a lot on the nib while this has been inked up. You can't quite make out the diamond-shaped ink windows. Maybe if I could do a close-up, but I can't. So this is Montblanc's student pens. They've discontinued this. But anyway, a student pen with a gold nib, and it writes very well. And like I said, I had to straighten the nib. The tines were not aligned, and it sure improved the pen once I did that. The ink in it is another one that's sort of running low, but it's going to be a few more weeks. Is Herbin, J. Herbin, Bleu Myosotis. And I was thinking, I wonder how many more blue inks I even have, because I've never been a huge fan of blue. Well, turns out I have a lot of blue ink, so yeah, it's going to be years before I buy another bottle of blue ink. I mean, I got to work through all those bottles of Pilot that came with every Pilot Custom 823 I ever bought. I got to work through a bottle of, Schaefer that somebody kindly sent me. I have several bottles of different kinds of Iroshizuku. I have a bottle of... Well, anyway, you get the picture. I have all kinds of blue ink. And it's going to take forever for me to use it up. Alrighty. And my last pen. Almost empty, I think. I'm tempted to actually film a Survivor Pens video with this before I put it away. If you look in the video description, see 3 squirrels by a pen. It's one where I can, according to my internal rules, film a Survivor Pens video. So, anyway, this is one of the pens I could do. So this is a Pawn Senior, which is a Norwegian brand, no longer in business. I will try to remember. I have a video of a Pawn 52 where I talked about the history of the Pawn Pen Company. So I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the video description so we can... if you're interested, you can go look at it. It's got some fun stuff. What the heck is this ink called? Lidate. It's got some fun stuff, including an advertisement where they're throwing pawn pens at a dartboard. And it talks about how it's on point. Well, I was just like, what? So a Norwegian friend of mine Yes, I know people in Norway. Some of you even watch this channel. This one has absolutely nothing to do with the channel. But anyway, she was amused by the ad and told me that it's a Norwegian expression that just means that it's on point and means it's a good pen. So, did I draw a target last time for this pen? Or was this pen not in use last time? I can't remember. But anyway, there's a target so we can be on point. And hey, I almost made it three-dimensional with my flexing here. Not to flex on you with my amazing pen or anything. Ha 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 ha, I'm funny. Alrighty. Let's go back to my face, and I am super curious to edit this footage and just see how it turned out. Alright, so I am standing in front of the Pierce Congregational Church, which is located in a non-existent town called Pierce, which is north of Scranton, North Dakota. As in, just like the Scranton, what's it called? Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. So, I'm not sure if this church is open. I was just looking at the paper and I don't see it listed, but let's take a look. So, the Pierce Congregational Church, it's a UCC, so that's a United Church of Christ, and it is a much more modern building than the one I've been working on, or helping to work on, I should say. Somebody's been mowing the lawn. They have plumbing and very nice flower beds, and they've even decorated outside. So, I don't know. Sure looks open. Not much to see inside, just some coat racks. You look along the side and I don't even know which part has the sanctuary. I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess the sanctuary's in here. Let's see what we can see here. Can't see much, but I think the sanctuary's in there. But anyway, I just want you to think about what this means. A church this nice, this new, means that there was a community here of people that could support it financially and by attending it. And you look around now, and it's all gone. Just got wheat. I'm actually up here trying to photograph some flax, but that's not going so well because it's cold. It doesn't want to come out, but yeah, that's the view. So part of why I'd like to do videos on small towns is I like to document them and show them because sometimes, especially where I live, they're gone. They just disappear. This one had a community around it. The Mound Church that you've seen in a couple of my videos had a community. Once had a chiropractor, had a post office, it had a school, it had all of that. And except for a foundation in a tick-infested field, there's really no sign of any of it left except for the church and the cemetery. And here at Pierce, got a church and there is a cemetery. I think I passed it. I'll try to include it. So I'm in front of the cemetery. We'll look at that in a minute. But down here, this group of trees right here is where the church was. So that's within walking distance of the cemetery. So here's the cemetery. You've got a nice sign in front of it. Pierce Congregational Cemetery. I have more wind here, so I got to be careful with the microphone. Should have brought my my lapel mic. So anyway, a lot of these towns like Pierce weren't exactly towns per se. They never really had a main street. They might have had a post office. They were more labeled places on the map. And they often centered around a school and a church. And they might have had a small store or something, and that was about it.
Larger towns, of course, had a main street. They usually had an elevator. The elevators were spaced out. That involved how far horses could haul grain in a day, and I think it was about 12 miles. And it was also involved the railroad, if they happened to be along the railroad, because the trains had to stop back then and reload water because they were steam engines. So that's how a lot of these towns out in the Great Plains were placed. So if you're wondering, like, oh, why is there a town there? Steam engine had stopped there, or because there was an elevator there, and the farmers would have to come in with grain, and then while they're there, they want to get something to eat or whatever, or pick up supplies. Then you get to the bigger towns, which are also drying up, and what spelled the death knell for a lot of them is as farms got bigger, and as your trucks could travel further, your roads got better, the elevator would dry up, you have fewer and fewer people sending kids to school, and the families are getting smaller, so the school dries up, and then when the school dries up, that's pretty much the death knell for a town, because then if you're a new person moving in, probably not moving in for agriculture, because it's very hard to break into farming or ranching. So you're probably moving in for some other job, and then you're like, oh, look, cheap houses. Oh, wait, where do we have to send our kids to school? Oh, hell no. And so why would you move there? And, it's a vicious cycle, and it's hard for a town to escape from it unless they can find something. Which I'm going to be doing some videos soon about towns who found something or didn't find something and are just dying. Or they are trying something. But Pierce never had a chance. Just too far away from everything. Scranton, which is nearby, I might actually do some filming in Scranton today. We'll see, because this whole Flax thing is turning out to be a big failure. Sorry. But Scranton has got, it's got some stuff. Has a very good elevator. Other stuff, not so much. Main Street's kind of lacking. But anyway, I'm hopefully going to get some flax on the way back, but it's not looking very hopeful. I should have come out last night. Last night I thought, oh, I will drive out there, and it was so hot, and I just thought, I'll wait till tomorrow morning. Can do the same thing in the early morning light. No, because it's been raining and cold, and apparently the little flax flowers just want to hide their little faces from the cold. So these are the little buggers I'm trying to get. And as you can see, they just don't want to open their little heads. And I might be here a little past their prime as well. But there they are. If I could just get them to open their faces for me. Alright, so I'm home now. Just looking what time it is. So I did some checking on the Pierce Congregational Church once I got home and had internet again. And it is still open. It's part of a Lutheran parish. They don't have a pastor, but they are yoked together with the Lutheran church in Scranton, and there's another Lutheran church in a town called Haley that I've taken you to before. And so they share a pastor with those two churches. But like I said, they're looking for a pastor right now. The one they had, who had been there for a long time, took a position with a much larger church in Dickinson. I think, well, I don't really want to get into that. But anyway, she was very popular, and so there's big shoes to fill. And these are all small churches. And it's an issue, actually, for these small rural churches, just like the schools and things. Finding new teachers at these schools is hard. So is finding pastors, as it turns out. The Lutheran church here in town has been without a pastor for a long time, and this is a much larger church. I actually live next door to the retired pastor, so he's been yanked out of retirement and has been filling in for services. He says he's retired, so he won't do it every Sunday, but I don't know exactly how the Lutheran thing works, but apparently he's needed to do communion and things like that. And then the Methodist church here stood empty for about a year, but they actually found a pastor. But the communities to the east are all struggling to find a pastor. Some of them have had openings for a few years. And so they have to fill everything with lay ministry. And, the reality is, can a rural church pay a living wage? Maybe not. Some of them will offer, I'm trying to remember the name for it, a pastorage. There we go. So a house or something for the pastor to live in, sometimes of varying quality. And some don't have that and just say good luck. Some churches that might have a pastor will have the pastor also works an additional job, or they rely on having a wife or a husband who has a job outside. And the big problem if you're trying to support a church is, can you depend on a specific amount of income? I would be freaked out by not knowing what I'm going to make. I don't know how these pastor work agreements work. Maybe they're always paid the same amount, but then, what if one year there's a recession, so nobody's donating to the church? And, sorry, pastor, we're just going to cut your salary. Ooh. So, with teaching, my salary is very dependable and generally will go up, or, in dire economic straits will probably stay the same for a year or two. But, I could do a whole video on the economics of churches too. It's not as interesting to me as the teaching field, but it's still interesting, especially the rural churches. So, and we're in a time when a lot of people aren't going to churches, so that throws an extra wrinkle into the whole thing too. So. Anyway, that was probably more than you wanted to know about the Pierce Congregational Church. But I found an extra flax field headed west out of Scranton. Much less off the beaten path. So I am probably going to go out there again real soon when the flax wakes up. Apparently it closes its little faces in the rain and the cold and just opens it up when it's sunny. So... I'll go back out when it's sunny and warm. The little flax is wide open. And I'll actually I won't have as good a backdrop of the field I found, but I'll have a better angle with the sun. So hopefully it'll be fun. Anyway, look forward to that somewhere down the road. Anyway, I also realized as I filmed this that totally forgot to walk you through Scranton. I drove through Scranton and just like, here's Scranton. Bye, Scranton. Blinked and I almost missed it. And got home, I said, oh yeah. So, you don't get to see Scranton. Maybe I'll throw in some driving footage here, but... All right, so it turns out I've got some good news about Scranton. On July 19th, which is next Saturday, they're going to do a community day. Now, it is not as exciting as the Rain one I've already shown and the Marmouth one I'm saving. Or I've got one from Bowman coming too. Actually, I'm going to go over and film that tomorrow. But it's something. So I'm going to wait and show you around Scranton on that day when there's a few things going on Main Street. And maybe I can get away with walking around filming. Who knows? But anyway, look forward to that possibly in 2 weeks. I'm not 100% sure what's coming. I'm trying not to do, here's this small town celebration for every single pen's in use. I'm trying to, spread the wealth around and do other things. But anyway, look forward to that. Look forward to a Marmouth. Look forward to a Bowman. There will be a Bismarck thingy coming. So I've got some on-the-road stuff. Plus, I want to do some videos that are just purely on the road. And, of course, the fountain pens and controversy and some book reviews coming soon as well. So we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.